Thank you. Thank you. Let me begin by thanking all of you here and folks watching live stream all over this country for standing up for our environment, for standing up for the fossil fuel industry and telling them that short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. Thank you all very much. And I want to give special thanks to the Howard University Gospel Choir for that great performance. And I want to thank 350.org and the other organizations involved in this event, and I'll tell you why. It's not just that Bill McKibben is a neighbor of mine in Vermont. It's that I am inspired. I am truly inspired by the work that you are doing and your understanding that while Donald Trump wants to divide us up, you are helping to bring people from all walks of life together. And not only all walks of life in the United States of America, when we talk about climate change, it goes without saying that we are talking about a global crisis and that it's imperative that we bring people all over the world together to fight to save this planet. You know, last night we heard President Trump's State of the Union address. And it is my job as a United States Senator to have to be there. That's what I got to do. But among the many of the absurd and dishonest things and ugly things that he said, there is one interesting reality. In that if you go to the scientific community and you say to them, what is the major global crisis that we face? The vast majority of them will say it is climate change. And they will say that it is absolutely imperative and a life and death issue that we have got to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy. And yet, Donald Trump spoke last night for over an hour. He talked about many things, but somehow he forgot to mention the words climate change. What an outrage. But we should not be surprised because Donald Trump, one of the great scientists of our time, has determined after years and years of exhaustive study that climate change is a hoax brought to us from China. And based on that brilliant analysis, not only does he not talk about climate change, but horrifically and dangerously, he has appointed administrators of the EPA, of the Department of Energy, who are doing everything they can to stop the movement towards sustainable energy. And what we are about here tonight and all over this country, and what we will be about tomorrow as we knock on doors, as we get involved in grassroots politics, what we are about is telling Donald Trump and the Koch brothers and all of these people that their days are numbered, fossil fuels days are numbered. We are going to transform our energy system. If Donald Trump doesn't know it, I know that you do, that this planet is warming at an alarming rate. 2017 was the second hottest year on record, behind only 2016. And 17 of the 18 hottest years have occurred since 2001. Yes, Mr. Trump, climate change is real. And what you have seen, and people all across this country have seen, sometimes in very tragic ways, are the kinds of extreme weather disturbances that have impacted so many people, the type of flooding that is impacting not only areas of the United States, but places all over the world, drought, wildfires, heat waves, extreme storms, mudslides, rising sea levels, and much, much more. In terms of climate change, the debate is over. What we now have to understand is the issue in front of us is not a scientific debate. It has everything to do with political will. Some of you may have noticed the other day that the Koch brothers and their billionaire friends are planning to spend some $400 million on the 2018 elections. $400 million coming from a handful of billionaires. And that tells me and tells you that not only do we have to take on the fossil fuel industry, we also have to take on this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Because whether the issue is climate change, whether the issue is health care and the need to move this country to a Medicare for all single-payer system, whether the issue is DACA and the need for comprehensive immigration reform, whether the issue is raising the minimum wage to a living wage, whether the issue is making public colleges and universities tuition-free, whether the issue is protecting a woman's right to choose, and establishing equal pay for equal work. All of those issues and many more are issues that the American people want resolved. They want a government, they want an economy, they want an environment that works for all of us, not just the few. Now, the good news, as all of you know, is notwithstanding Trump, in our country, in cities and towns and states and all over this world, we are making significant progress in transforming our global energy system. In Chile, the lowest cost electricity ever produced is coming from solar. And in our own country, we are seeing hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs being established through wind and solar and geothermal and other sustainable energies. There is no doubt in my mind, and by the way, no doubt in corporate America's mind, who are investing more and more in sustainable energy and less in fossil fuels. There is no doubt that the future is with us, that we will create an energy system which is clean, non-polluting, and sustainable. Now, that is what we will do, and the question is how quickly we will accomplish that. So my request of you is please get involved in the political process. Start running for office. You can do it. You can run for school board, city council, state legislature, Congress, or the Senate. Trust me, I work in the Senate. I know that you could do it. So, brothers and sisters, we got a lot of work in front of us, but I am honestly so inspired by seeing people all over this country do extraordinary work, and I know that you are going to get involved in that process. And let me conclude as a father of 4 and a grandfather of 7. What we are talking about is nothing less than the future of this planet. And in this struggle, we cannot, we must not fail. And with your hard work, I know we will succeed. And now, I want to introduce to you your MCs for the evening, Reverend Lennox Yearwood of the Hip Hop Caucus, and Bill McKibben of 350.org. Thank you all very much.
You tell him. You tell him.
You can do better than that. Let's make some noise for Senator Bernie Sanders. So, before we get started, let me say this. As you can see from my hat, I actually want to start by giving honor to, one, all of the amazing climate activists like Berta Caceres, who gave their lives for this movement, and for an amazing equity freedom fighter warrior, my friend Erica Garner. And those things are connected. For those who are watching who may not know that Erica Garner's father was killed by the New York Police Department in an illegal chokehold. I mean, you saw him, his last words were, I can't breathe. And Erica sprung up. What's the connection with the climate, though, is that even if he hadn't been choked, regarding the pollution, and his borough had an F for air quality, is that Eric Garner and all his children had asthma. And so even for him, and then when Erica died, she had an asthma attack, which then created a heart attack, which put her in a coma when she died at 27 just 1 month ago. So I want to lead off with that because these things are connected. And so with that, you know, I just want to thank all of the activists who are watching around. There are over 300 of house parties. Make some noise for the house parties. Who are fighting this fight on the local level, and even groups here like CCAN, who I know has booths in the background and is fighting the pipelines that are running through here locally. Now, as you know, I am the Rev, and if y'all know me from our Keystone fights and from Standing Rock, it's time to get fired up. Are y'all ready? They can't hear you. Are you ready? If you're ready, and you're ready to be a part of the climate resistance and to go fossil-free fast, somebody make some noise!
Brother, I brought you a present from Vermont.
Thank you very much for that.
Take a bite, see what you think. Now, there is a reason that Reverend Yearwood is eating the apple tonight, okay?
Vermont apple.
They asked me to come up with a name for this thing tonight. I think they asked because I was a writer. They said, write a script, come up with a name. So I said, okay, we'll call it Fossil Free Fast because it has 3 F's in a row. I'm a writer. The alphabet's kind of our jam, you know? And I thought it was terrific, but I forgot just how zealous some of our colleagues really were. I started hearing from people around the country saying, when am I supposed to stop eating? And I was like, what?
Bad.
So I am glad that everybody is so committed that they would go without food if need be. And we will let you know if the need arises for this, okay? But if there's anybody out at any of these house parties or something, just sitting there with a glass of water in front of them, now is the time to go get the Doritos, you know, and bring them forward because we need you strong.
That's right.
Because we have to go swiftly.
That's right.
Rapidly. With dispatch, okay? And the reason, and here I'm reminded that my job in the world is basically to bum people out, okay? The reason we have to go fast is because we are behind, because things are not going well. Think about the last 6 months in this country, and this country only covers 2% of the planet's surface. But think about this country. We had the biggest rainstorm in American history. 4.5 feet of water fell on Houston. We had the longest stretch of extreme winds, 185 miles an hour with Hurricane Irma. Hurricane Maria brought utter devastation. Longest blackout in American history, 1/3 of that island. Our fellow Americans still without power now. Then we had the deadliest wildfire in California history, killing 42 people in Napa and Sonoma. Then we had the largest wildfire in California history, and it happened in December, 2 months after when wildfire season's supposed to end. Because we've changed the world, because we're breaking it. In January, epic rains fell on the land made barren by those fires, and the mudslides killed 25 people. It's a different world.
I didn't know that we were supposed to be depressing people. And if that's the case, then I could do better than that.
With
Now, yes, and a few boos, but the reality is that he has the power right now, and he's using that power for the fossil fuel industry and big oil and gas and coal, and he's using that power to damage our communities. But here's a chart of new solar installations worldwide. And next to that chart, well, no, not that guy. And next to that chart, you have new solar installations here in the US.
You remember that chart? The big blue spike was the Obama administration,
yes.
And then
that's the thing. And then about 3 months into that administration, and after that big blue spike, you saw where it fell off a cliff called Trump, Coke, and Exxon.
So our job tonight, beginning tonight, is to turn that around. We're not going to turn it around in Washington, not for the moment. Even if Trump left, the men around him would keep the same course, okay? But the big marble buildings here in DC are not the only halls of power that there are.
That's right.
We've got some other ways to wipe that smug grin off his face. 3 ways, to be specific, 3 arms of this campaign that we're unveiling tonight. Number 1, a fast, just transition to 100% renewable energy.
Right.
Number two, an end to new fossil fuel projects, no new fossil fuel infrastructure.
Right.
3, not 1 penny more flowing toward dirty energy. Those 3 pieces together, they represent a full-scale shift away from this old fossil fuel economy and all the injustice that comes with it, to a new renewable energy economy, one that works for everyone. 3 pieces that we can drive from the local level to the national level to the international. All 3 underway already in beautiful bits and pieces, but it's time to bring them together now, and that's what fossil-free fast means. It begins with job 1, a commitment to 100% renewable energy.
This first of these campaigns is already underway across America, and our colleagues at the Sierra Club and elsewhere have been making great progress. They've already helped pave the way by bringing thousands of new people into the climate movement, fighting for our cities and towns to be at the forefront of the fast and just transition to 100% renewable. Here's Jamaica Hodnett. Give it for Jamaica. She is the lead organizer with Sierra Club's Ready for 100 campaign, which has been coaching local organizers on how to do this work effectively in their communities. Make some noise for my dear sister.
Who's a little bright? Okay. So, thank you all for coming. I'm here to share the news that the transition to the 100% renewable energy is underway. Already, yes. Already, 56 cities and 6 counties have committed to transition entirely to 100% renewable energy. That's a lot, guys. But even more importantly, a wave of momentum is building as an unprecedented number of people join in social movements, a movement of communities demanding cleaner energy has made a just and equitable transition the new bar of leadership. As a lead organizer for the Ready for 100 campaign, I coach and support local organizers in cities like Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. I help our organizers create and execute campaigns where the benefits are just and equitable. The work to advance a transition to 100% clean energy is about more than just metrics on how many kilowatt hours of clean energy have been put into use. It's about supporting local environmental justice groups, housing justice advocates, and living wage advocates and organizations. It's about asking what communities need and crafting a plan based on the community's response. I want to be clear, these 100% clean energy commitments mean little if we leave low-income, Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities in the same conditions that an economy based on fossil fuel extraction and burning has left them in. We must work together to ensure that a shift to 100% clean energy addresses the injustice and inequalities of the fossil fuel economy. Now's the time to hold ourselves, our organizations, and our movements accountable to centering frontline communities, and that requires work. Work at self-transformation, work with our communities, and work with our families. What I've learned is that to do truly inspiring and paradigm-shifting work on climate, we cannot separate climate and environmental justice from other struggles for justice. We have seen examples across the country where this can be done right. We've seen this in Pueblo, Colorado, a community where the local utility company has wrongly shut off electricity for thousands of people, and where an upcoming community solar project will largely be dedicated to low-income residents. We've seen this in Atlanta, where there has been a community-wide engagement strategy and planning process to ensure that commitments to 100% clean energy will create jobs and reduce air pollution. And we've seen this right here in the nation's capital, where there's an ambitious commitment to power 100,000 low-income homes with solar by 2032. This moment in history, our moment, is a critical turning point requiring multi-issue movement building. We have the tools we need to get the job done, and if we do so in sync, we will win. Thank you.
Jamaica, thank you so much. Okay, you get the message. Someplace here we've got a map of the 56 cities and 6 counties that have so far agreed to go 100% renewable. That's good, okay? There's a list of some of them. That's tremendous. There are all the communities that have not yet agreed, okay? So our job, and there are tens of thousands of them, is to get them and fast. All of you out there watching, in your communities, we have model legislation available. We've got templates for how to convince city councils and town boards, how to convince them that this is good news not just for the climate, but for the local economy. And we need everyone to start fighting for this change right in your community. First task that you might want to do is text the phrase fossil-free to 83224. This gets everybody, I think we can even put it up on the screen, this gets everybody absolutely on the same page, okay? So that we have the list that we need to be sending out the kind of coordinated action when we need to, and so that you can let us know how things are going. You will get some more chances to do that in the course of the evening, all right? But 83224. Now, An advocate is someone who argues for change. To give us some sense of how to argue effectively, because it's not just getting up and shouting, not just to give us some sense of how to argue effectively, I want to introduce you to one of the best advocates in the entire country. Jacqueline Patterson, the first person the NAACP ever hired to work specifically on environmental justice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So thank you so much. It's good to be here with you. So what's happening in communities across the country resulting from the drivers and the impacts of climate change is an urgent call to action to eliminate fossil fuels from our energy mix. And with the NAACP, we know children like Elijah in Indiantown, Florida, who lives near a coal plant and has such severe asthma that he is dependent on taking a handful of drugs every day in order to be able to get through the day so that his airway passages are open so that he can survive. We know families like the Hendersons who live across the fence line from an oil refinery in the middle of the petrochemical corridor in southern Louisiana. They, like every single household on their block, have a family member with cancer from living in the toxic donut that they call home and community. We know that 76,000 coal miners have died of black lung disease since 1968. We are the people paying the price for this nation's addiction to fossil fuels. We know families in Houston, Texas, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Immokalee, Florida, who are still displaced after hurricanes Harvey, Maria, and Irma, storms likely strengthened by fossil fuel climate change. We know women like Deneen, who still has nightmares after being sexually assaulted in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. We know that the Ile de Jean Charles band of the Biloxi Chitimacha Choctaw tribe, who have already been displaced by the ever-rising sea levels overtaking their land, they can certainly tell the tale of the grim impacts of fossil fuel-driven climate change. In the face of all of this, we have an intensifying atmosphere of increasing hate against other, which is often defined as anyone who isn't a rich, white, heterosexual American male. Thank you. Thank you. As such, we're in a situation where the powers that be are decreasing regulations on pollution and corporations with an aim of protecting profits, while increasing regulations on and criminalization of people, especially women, especially people who are LGBTQI, especially immigrants, especially black males, as they roll back protections on human rights. Corporations get a free pass to pollute, and others have protections withdrawn, at best, or criminalized at worst, with fatal effect. The U.S. pulls out of the Paris Agreement and abandons all responsibility for being 4% of the global population, but 25%, we're responsible for 25% of the emissions that drive climate change and harms communities. Simultaneously, this administration tightens immigration laws as people are being driven from their homelands by wars over scarce resources, by disasters, and by floods as they seek sanctuary. In the words of a Somali-born Kenyan poet, Warsan Shirwe, no one puts their child in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. At the same time, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So at the same time, the resistance is rising. Communities are reclaiming our rights. Sanctuary churches, cities, and campuses are springing up all over the country. Groups like For the Love of Water are pushing back against privatization and claiming community-controlled water systems to uphold our rights to this basic resource. Communities are pushing back against corporations that would snatch the bottle out of a baby's mouth to turn a profit, and they are instead planting and harvesting nature's bounty through local food movements. Communities are pushing back against corporate greed and generating their own energy through the God-given sun that we have to take us off this path towards catastrophic climate change. Through replacing systems rooted in extraction, exploitation, and domination with principles and practices of regeneration, cooperation, and resilience, communities are rising up, coming together, and practicing. Thank you. And communities are practicing Dr. Martin Luther King's vision of revolutionary love. Thank you. Thank you. In this uprising, in this principled resistance, in this practice of revolutionary love, lies our hope for a fossil-free future. Thank you.
Come on now, you can do better than that. Come on now, you can do better than that. Make some noise for Jackie Patterson, y'all. So you know your first assignment. Local resolutions across the nation calling for no new fossil fuels and a fast and just transition to 100% renewable energy. Fast because we're running out of time. This is a crisis with a time limit, and just because that's not simply the right way. It's the only way. We have to do this together. We've got a deadline. There's a conference in San Francisco in September where mayors, governors, and regional leaders from all over the planet will present plans for how to keep the climate fight going. That's your target date, September. And if in the process you're able to inspire lots of voters, respect my vote, for the fall election, so much the better. And if you need some inspiration, anybody here needs a little bit of inspiration? Let's make this very, very real. Tara Rodriguez Besosa runs a remarkable project in Puerto Rico called El Departamento de la Comida, meaning the Department of Food. It's a sustainable restaurant and grassroots organization that develops markets for local farmers. And what do you know? It was wiped out by Hurricane Maria. Tara is putting their own project back together while helping to coordinate relief through the Puerto Rico Resilience Fund. And they're going to tell us about a vision for a renewed Puerto Rico that's a vision for us as well. Make some noise for Tara, y'all.
Invoco a Borinquen, el nombre no extractivo de lo que se conoce como un rico puerto. I summon Borinquen, the original Taíno name of the island you know of as a rich port. I'm a queer person of color, food activist committed to a just recovery for mi isla. And we are a network of people building resilience, not bureaucratic relief. Hurricane Maria increased our food dependency from an already 85% to 98%, while the Jones Act made it impossible for other nations to directly provide aid to our people. The work of grassroots organizers is what many of us are relying on right now, while our government systems are failing. We launched El Departamento de la Comida's Resilience Fund, and it's become an example of what Boricuas in the diaspora and locals on the islands can do together. The day after the storm, we started immediately supporting sustainable food projects for the next 24 months through seeds, farming, reforestation, rainwater collection, renewable energy, and community wellness. All actions that will ensure a decolonized future for Puerto Rico. We have birthed an intersectional collaboration with groups all over the United States and the world, fighting outdated models of extractive economy in our own neighborhoods and ecosystems. The plan for Puerto Rico has been for centuries one of exploitation of labor and land, extraction of resources, importation of food, and corporate subsidies. We are the perfect example of how colonialism and climate change have disproportionately affected low-income communities of color. These injustices and second-class citizen treatment should be understood as a violation of our human rights. We all know that hurricanes unveil for many of us the ugly consequences of extractive economies. So why would we rebuild the same destructive, unsustainable systems that caused this crisis in the first place? If we rebuild in harmony with our island's ecosystems, we have everything we need to feed ourselves, generate our own power, and take care of each other. If we make this succeed in Puerto Rico and other frontline communities, everybody is included in this success. Vandana Shiva warns how chemical agriculture is completely related to fossil fuels and reminds us that diversity is really what creates stability. To me, fossil fuel-free fast means if it's not renewable, owned by the people and for the people, we don't want it. The US government continues to silence our voices and allow others to pretend that they represent us. We demand sovereignty and we demand reparations. We are creating our own projects, and it's our responsibility to help ourselves thrive in the face of adversity. Do you want to help our islands? Back us up. Do not buy us out. Big environmental groups redirect more resources towards supporting and mobilizing grassroots-based action. And to all the Boricuas in the diaspora, we have no time to wait for politicians, laws, nor promesas to be kept. We have begun to do it ourselves. If we adopted renewable energy, we would create 10 times more jobs. We would be able to heal our lands. Puerto Rico's colonial history might not allow for political sovereignty immediately, but we will achieve our freedom now through food and energy independence.
Such good work that. Rev, by the way, I notice you're on hat 3 for the evening. If there were any justice in the world, those of us with no hair would be wearing the hats, but there you are. Look, time now to talk about job 2. Just as important, there it is. Just as important as the energy we do want is the energy we simply cannot have, and that energy is fossil fuel. The math, as we have said on so many occasions, is so simple. If we dig up the current reserves of coal and oil and gas, we will cook the planet 5 times over. It's exactly that simple.
That's right. That's right. I know what you're thinking. We're losing the fight right now. And true, Trump is trying to open up national monuments to drilling for oil. He's opened up the Arctic. He's opening up our entire country's coastlines. That's right. You can boo on that one. The dangerous rise in American oil and gas extraction that has begun under the past few administrations seems likely to accelerate.
But something else began during the Obama years, too, and that was the full-on resistance to new fossil fuel projects. From the fight against the Keystone XL pipeline, which so many people here in D.C. were part of, from that grew so many more fights, and we won tons of them. No fracking in New York, no fracking in Maryland, now in a dozen countries around the world. Shell got chased out of the Arctic by the kayaktivists. We've beaten six, count them, 6 new coal ports in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to win many, many more of these battles. And every time we fight one of these battles, we cost this industry time and money. There's not going to be a carbon tax coming from the Trump administration anytime soon, but as Naomi Klein said once upon a time, we can impose a de facto carbon tax with our resistance.
Right. Let me introduce you to not only one of my friends, dear friends, one of the heroes of many of those fights, one of the leaders of the remarkable stand at Standing Rock. From the Indigenous Environmental Network, my dear brother, Dallas Goldtooth.
I'm just filling out my deposit slip for my George Soros check. Hi, everyone. Dallas Goldtooth here. I'm the Keep It Underground campaigner for the Indigenous Environmental Network. How are you? I have to say, Chante Washte Napechi Uzapido, I greet each and every one of you with a good heart. And I have to apologize because I can't be there right now to join you. But I know that each and every one of you are beautiful because this movement that we're a part of is beautiful. So keep on rocking with your beautiful self. Let's get into this. The fight to keep fossil fuels in the ground was born out of an indigenous struggle to end oil development in the Amazon and in the Arctic, and now has blown to this global movement to stop fossil fuel projects across the planet. And this movement we saw in full force in the fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline in the homelands of the Oceti-Sakowin people, also the Standing Rock Sioux Nation. That fight against Dakota Access Pipeline's parent company, Energy Transfer Partners, was and continues to be a fight that has invigorated and inspired thousands of others to step up to the plate and hold ourselves accountable for our addiction to fossil fuel regime. The fossil fuel regime. There you go. That's the word. We are now seeing dozens of communities stepping up to the plate across this country, taking action, often being led by Indigenous leaders, and that's something amazing to see. Now, we know this fight to build a more sustainable, better world is a multifaceted struggle. And one approach is to see and advocate for a just transition towards 100% renewable energy based on real community solutions. And another approach, which we're talking about here, is to keep our governments, our communities, our municipalities, our tribes from locking ourselves into more of this tyrannical beast that is called the fossil fuel economy. And the only way, the only proper way to accomplish that goal is to stop all new coal, oil, and gas projects, period. To stop the fossil fuel industry while Trump is in office merely means that we're going to have to organize better. We're going to have to be braver, and we're going to have to take bolder action. The first thing that Trump did when he came into office was to approve the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines. And now he wants to get access to more of our sacred sites and access to offshore waters for more drilling. It's bananas. But year after years of fighting and winning in this struggle to keep fossil fuels in the ground and stop the Keystone XL pipeline, we're not backing down. We're standing up. So I'm going to ask you to stand with us, to help us in this fight against Keystone XL pipeline. Join communities, tribes, ranchers, and farmers to make the promise to protect. The promise to protect is a commitment to join these communities along the proposed route of the Keystone XL pipeline if and when the time comes. You can check out more information at nokxlpromise.org. Now, I want to introduce our next speaker here. She is a magnificent woman, a beautiful human being, and a close, dear friend of mine. And I don't know the proper words to explain how vital her voice is to this movement and how powerful her voice is for all of us to hear. So I want to ask you to give a round of applause and a show of appreciation for my good sister holding it down in Southwest Louisiana in the fight against the Bayou Bridge Pipeline, Sharif Whiteland.
Thank you. And thank you, Dallas, who I hope is watching tonight. You know, when I was asked to speak with you tonight, I thought long and hard about what I should say. A lot of things went through my mind, considering that my state, Louisiana, is losing a football field of land every 45 minutes, and we've lost 1 million football fields to date. I could go into how the rising floodwaters entered my home a year ago last August, and then again in that following May, that the storms are getting more frequent, more intense, more costly, and more deadly. I could tell you how the photo behind me is of the Atchafalaya Basin. It's the largest natural swamp in North America, and I would certainly throw in that it is the most beautiful places on earth. That's my swamp. It also contains some of the 700 waterways that Energy Transfer Partners, the pipeline company that brought you Dakota Access, and the human rights abuses at Standing Rock, are trying to ram their Bayou Bridge pipeline through. They are also endangering the drinking water of 30,000 people, including the water of the United Homa Nation. This industry has taken hundreds of landowners to court and taken their land through eminent domain, and they continue to commit acts of environmental racism while continuing to have the worst spill record in U.S. history. But then you can learn that at nobvp.org. So I decided what I'd rather tell you about is how we're building a sustainable community in South Louisiana. Yeah. We're going to have chickens and a co-op garden, and we're going to teach kids how to can, and we're going to teach people, oil workers, how to build solar panels. I want to let you know that we have a camp. It's called L'Eau et la Vie Camp, which means water is life. It's a resistant camp for the Bayou Bridge pipeline. That's right. Minnie Wachoni. The more and more people are standing up to be water protectors too, to monitor our endangered waterways. And I would tell you that the Freetown, St. James community, that they're standing tall, that the people in the basin are fighting back, that landowners all across Louisiana are raising their voices, that every day more and more people are saying no more. Brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, the resistance in Louisiana and in the Gulf of Mexico is strong, and it is growing. Because we the people must not yield to agencies or administrations or corporations that do not serve us. Rather, we must rise like the waters. We must melt together like the cypress trees when they fight against the storm. We must be fierce and we must be unafraid. But mainly, brothers and sisters, we must believe. Because believing is the only way that change and justice has ever been created. We can do this with faith and courage, and I believe in you, because I believe that we will win, and I'm going to need you to help me, because sometimes, brothers and sisters, it gets hard. You know it gets hard, right? And sometimes maybe we're too tired and we don't think we have the will to go on. But you know what? We have to tell each other. We have to hold each other. And we have to say, I believe that we will win. And I want you to say it with me now. And I want you to say it like you believe it from your heart. I believe that we will win. Say it. I believe that we will win. Again, I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Hold it, brothers and sisters. Hold it in your heart and in your hands, and keep it. And whenever you see somebody get tired, you say it again. I believe that we will win, because we will. We will win.
So I know what some of you are thinking right now. Look, I live maybe in the suburbs, or man, there's no coal mine near me, no pipelines. You know, how do I help? Well, you help by signing that promise to protect that Dallas told us about. And if need be, showing up when our indigenous brothers and sisters call on us for help. So now you can do that now by texting fossil free to 83224. That's fossil free to 83224. And you can help even closer to home, too, because now cities and towns and states are starting to ban new fossil fuel projects. So if we're going to be 100% renewable, what do we need with new pipelines running through our communities, new oil terminals? We've got to get rid of this stuff and get rid of this stuff right now.
And we're doing it now. We could not be prouder of the work of the roughly 150 local 350 groups throughout the U.S. They're unbelievable. I know that 350 D.C. and Montgomery County and everybody else here tonight, we know about their amazing work to build the climate movement, advance solutions. Tonight, as we speak, the pipeline fighters in Minnesota are preparing for a decision on Line 3, and we've got a fighting chance. Let me introduce someone to you now who shaped a model for how to get this done. Last year, activists in Portland, Oregon, passed one of the original fossil-free ordinances in the whole country.
That's right.
Now they're collaborating on a big city-level initiative that would achieve climate and racial justice goals. It's a precedent that Portland could set and become a model for cities everywhere. And Adriana Vaz-Andrei of 350 PDX, she's been right at the front of all this work.
A few years ago, my sister-in-law, Sabine von Mehring, told me about Bill McKibben and his Do the Math tour. I had just spent years finishing my medical degree and my doctorate in neuroscience while raising 4 young children with my artist husband. As a mother, it was hearing you speak, Bill, that inspired me to switch my path entirely and co-found 350 PDX out of our family living room. A lot's happened in the 4 years since then. We grew from a handful of volunteers to now over 300 core activists, 10,000 active supporters, not to mention the many diverse coalitions that are at the heart of our local movement. And we've had some amazing successes in Portland. Against all odds, we stopped a large fossil fuel export terminal from being built. We got our city to divest from fossil fuels. We removed climate change denial from our public school textbooks. We allied against white supremacy and immigrant deportations. And we organized a kayaktivist blockade against Shell's Arctic icebreaker. We also passed one of the strongest 100% renewables resolutions, and tired of federal inaction and years of whack-a-mole fights against the countless fossil fuel terminal proposals in our region, we got our city to pass the nation's most comprehensive ban on new fossil fuel infrastructure. Big industry tried everything to challenge the ordinance in court, but just earlier this month, the Oregon Court of Appeals ruled that the ban did not violate the Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution and is therefore legal, paving the way for other cities and towns to do the same. In 2018, we're continuing full speed ahead. We're working to hold our statewide elected representatives accountable to making big polluters pay and to saying no to LNG pipelines. 350 PDX has also been collaborating with frontline community-led groups, including the Portland NAACP, on a precedent-setting, city-based initiative. This initiative would help transform Portland's energy future by generating tens of millions of dollars annually to invest in renewable energy and other just transition projects, while providing economic opportunities for those who've been left out of our economy. As the old world order begins to crumble, there's a growing awareness that we're all interconnected. Many of our resistance struggles share the same root causes. From mass incarceration, the erosion of our democracy, and permanent war, to mass pollution, factory farms, animal cruelty, climate change, and extinction of life on our only planet. Trump is but a symptom, albeit a pathologically dangerous one, of a very broken system, of a systemic illness, and our movement is part of a collective immune system essential in fighting for the type of transformational change we need. Trump and his sickening agenda have aroused our immune system like a booster shot, with hundreds of thousands of people signing up to resist in communities across the country. We have a historic opportunity right now to correct the path of destruction taken over past generations and turn the tide for generations to come. Let's forge a new path, one based in compassion, justice, and renewed connection with nature and with each other. With cities and local communities in the lead, let's fight together for all that we love.
Come on, you can do better than that. Come on, you can do better than that now. So now you've got your second homework assignment. We're going to keep it in the ground, and we're going to do it by passing fossil-free resolutions locally, and by coming together nationally with the promise to protect.
Sorry to interrupt. We know that you mostly wanted to focus on the US tonight, and we know how tough it is for you out there right now. But a huge part of what makes this fight work is that we're all in it together. We in the Pacific wanted to let you know that we have your back. We're already seeing major changes in places like Kiribati, Tokelau, Tuvalu, and the Marshall Islands. But the fight for a fossil-free world is connected everywhere. And the work that you do in the US directly impacts us here in the Pacific.
Same here. We are fighting for a fossil-free world. We are getting laws done in Africa, from Kenya to Ghana, from South Africa to Nigeria. We are challenging coal-fired power plants. Solar panels are going up at a record rate, but it's us who have contributed the least to the problem who are the most affected. We alone can't stop climate change. That's why we are looking to you in the US, because your country produces so much carbon, but still we are doing our part to protect the planet.
Hey Bill, hey Rev, it's Naomi Klein up in Canada, and I'm wishing lots of love to the whole 350 family. And I just want to remind you guys that we don't just need to watch the carbon. We have to watch the money. The money! It's always about the money. Bye.
Naomi's right. You know, she usually is.
Yeah.
For many years, 350 has focused on the money that has powered fossil fuel corporations. Naomi helped birth the divestment movement in 2012. By now, $6 trillion with a T dollars worth of endowments and portfolios have divested, and Carter and Hall. GW, our host tonight, has begun the process of getting out of coal. Students are fighting to make sure they go further. Thank you, guys. Right there. Because lots of people are going much, much, much further. In December, Norway's sovereign wealth fund, the largest pool of investment capital in the world, began divesting from fossil fuel.
And it's not just stocks. banks and insurance companies are starting to do the right thing. Last month, the huge European insurance company AXA said it would stop insuring or funding tar sand pipelines, because they said it's an overheating planet. The CEO said, quote, "It's not sustainable and therefore not insurable."
Now, that very same day that insurance company did that, the World Bank, after 20 years of campaigning from old friends of ours like, say, Oil Change International, the World Bank announced that in 2019 it was going to stop funding all new oil and gas exploration. That's a big deal.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
We need not just the World Bank, we need every bank around the world to do the same.
Right.
And Rev, do you know what happened earlier this month? You know the reason that despite the president, I've been in a pretty good mood for weeks?
I've noticed a good mood, actually. I've noticed that.
Yeah. New York City, which is, no offense to the district, but New York City may be the most vital and diverse city on the face of the earth. New York City decided that it would divest from fossil fuel. Thanks to the unyielding work of local organizers, NYC took a lead from the district, and then it went one better. Not only divesting, but joining cities across the country in suing the 5 biggest oil companies for climate damages. We thought you might like to hear from a leader who listened to his constituents to make this happen. The mayor of the city of New York, Bill de Blasio.
Last night, the city of New York filed a lawsuit in federal court against 5 investor-owned fossil fuel companies most responsible for global warming.
New York City leaders are taking the fight against climate change to oil companies.
The city alleges the fossil fuel industry has been aware for decades that burning fuel was impacting the climate. Mayor de Blasio says the city will seek billions of dollars.
I want to thank everyone gathered in Washington and watching all over the country. You are leading a fight for our lives. It's a tragedy that the Trump administration and the GOP-led Congress don't admit the truth about climate change. But we cannot and we will not wait on them. That's why New York City took 2 bold steps this month. We have begun to divest our pension funds from companies that own fossil fuel reserves. Ultimately, we will divest $5 billion. And that, my friends, will get the industry's full attention. And we're suing 5 major oil companies, Exxon Mobil, BP, Shell, ConocoPhillips, and Chevron, for creating a climate that damages our city and endangers our people. They must pay for what they have done. People like you inspired us to make this happen. You asked for it, you demanded it, and you can make other cities and states follow. Big oil think they're living in Trump's America. They're wrong. They're living in your America. And they should be scared out of their minds by engaged, intelligent, relentless activists like you. Cities and states and the people are going to defend ourselves from rising seas and killer storms and corporate greed. We will do it ourselves. Thanks, everyone, and onward.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. It is truly true that organized people beat organized money every single time.
Every time.
So we have 3 jobs that are all part of the fossil-free campaign. Nobody has to do every one, but y'all have to do something. Some communities have already crossed one off the list and can go to the next. And in other places, one strategy will make more sense than the other.
But everybody, by this point, should be able to see a specific task that they can take on together. 1, demand a fast, just transition to 100% renewables in your community. 2, make sure fossil fuels stay in the ground. 3, turn off the spigot of dollars that keeps the spigot of oil and gas flowing. Let's drive this home. Time for the audience here to do a little bit of work. Are you guys willing to chant for us? It's not going to tax you. I know that many of you highly educated and incredibly skilled. This really shouldn't tax you too much, okay? On this side, we're going to talk about job one, okay? The transition to renewable energy. The word you're going to yell is sun, all right? On this middle part, we're going to talk about job two, which is keeping things in the ground. There are many ways to do it, but one of them is sitting in. So your word is sit, okay? And over here, we're going to talk about turning off the money, all right? Your word is sell. Remember how I said we like alliteration? 3 S's in a row, okay? Rev, you lead us here.
All right. Are y'all ready? Then you need to get to your feet on this one. Come on, come on, get to your feet. You need to get ready. Even now, if you're watching, if you're watching at home, if you're watching on your live stream, you need to get up also. So you should be up all over the country.
Time to stretch for a minute.
Ready? So here we go. Now sit was very, very good. So let's try that again.
There is more. There are more
sitters.
Here
we go.
Excellent. That was it.
Thank you.
All right, your turn.
Yeah, no. You know, we're thank y'all so much. Yes, and back home. Sit down too. Sit on home back. I know you're in your living room standing right now. I want you to do that. So we're almost done here. But we have to talk about how we're going to do it.
About how we're going to, not what we're going to do, how we're going to do.
The how, yes. And the key word is
together. Together.
This is a multiracial movement. And it requires all of us, black, white, Latino, Asian.
Young and old, indigenous and immigrant, blue state and red state, urban and rural, every single one of us.
So I want to put these cards to the side here because this introduction is very important to me. I want to introduce a leader who understands that better than most of us. Jessica Lorena Rangel works in Houston and Pasadena, Texas, on behalf of undocumented communities. As many as 500,000 people who were severely affected by Hurricane Harvey and had little to no support in recovery. I want to take a moment to note how deeply disturbing it is for the Trump administration to stoke dangerous anti-immigrant flames.
That's right.
We in the climate movement will not stand for this because we know all of our work is interconnected. I say to you now, loud and clear, the climate movement stands with immigrant communities. We stand
with dreamers.
We stand with dreamers and against deportation, border walls, and the current administration's attempt at deciding who is worthy of being in our country. So it is my honor to welcome Jessica Lorena Rangel to talk about the impact of climate disasters they have on vulnerable communities like hers.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Lorena Rangel, and I am undocumented and unafraid. As an undocumented person, I know firsthand what my community has been after. I know the fears that they are facing, and I know exactly what it feels like because they're constantly being under attack with the Trump administration. I also know ways in which the issue of climate change impacts the vulnerable communities just like mine. Hurricane Harvey, which came in and tore apart Houston and surrounding areas, dropped a total of 33 trillion gallons of water. To put that into perspective, that's a total of the flow of the Niagara Falls for 509 days non-stop. In the news, you saw families being evacuated from their homes with motorboats and kayaks, but the reality was much more different. Our community doesn't have kayaks and motorboats hanging out in their garages. We were hiding in attics out of fear for deportation. Our communities were not coming out to seeking for help. Harvey left 39,000 people out of their home and left a total of $180 billion worth of damages. Yet, instead of focusing on this, our beautiful president is focusing on that $25 billion wall that we're doing instead of putting in the efforts where there should be in Houston. Our communities, it became very evident that our communities were not taken into consideration when making the natural disaster preparation plans and are still not being taken into consideration when making these plans, and that has to change. Our communities were the last ones to get food on their supermarkets, the last ones to get any aids, and our children were exposed to floodwaters that were filled with chemicals. But you didn't see that in the news. You didn't see the petrochemical plants spilling these chemicals onto the floodwaters and our children getting sick. Nobody was talking about it, and it was something that needed to be brought up to our attention. Even now, months later, we have undocumented communities, undocumented families that are living in homes where there is mold growing on their walls with the same carpet that was filled with floodwaters, and they are scared to bring that to the attention of the landlord because the landlords will threaten them and tell them, you know what, if you continue to complain, I'm going to call Immigration Customs Enforcement on you, otherwise known as ICE, and that has to change. The undocumented community, the community that brings Houston its culture and economically it thrives, we deserve better. To address these issues, these extreme natural disasters and their social consequences, we must get to the root of the problem that's causing climate change, and those are fossil fuels. We must shut down all fossil fuel projects and build 100% renewable energy for all. Our communities, including the undocumented communities, deserve a fossil-free future where we live free and we are treated with respect and dignity. Mi gente, es tiempo de alzar la voz. No podemos seguir así, no podemos seguir con esto. Nosotros merecemos mejor. No podemos seguir sufriendo con desastres naturales que año a año se ponen peor, todo a causa de combustibles fósiles. Nuestro estatus migratorio no nos define. Somos humanos y tenemos derecho a vivir una vida sana y trabajar para desarrollar energía limpia para todos. Recordemos que querer es poder. Y díganlo conmigo, sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Thank you.
Gracias. Magnificent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jessica. Well, while we're on the subject of extremely powerful young women, I want to introduce you to the last speaker of the evening. Varshini Prakash is the definition of a fierce leader. She led the entire University of Massachusetts system to divest from fossil fuels. And she is now one of the chief architects of the Sunrise Movement, an army of young people to elect candidates who will look toward the future and not toward the past.
Hello, everyone. So in June 2016, my university divested from fossil fuels after a 2-week-long epic escalation. It was one of the most pivotal moments of my life, and it led me to coach and support divestment campaigns around the country for years. We even worked with the divestment campaign here at GW. And GW administration, if you're listening, you should seriously consider supporting your students' leadership here and divest the rest. Here and everywhere, the divestment movement has been so powerful. It's put fossil fuel CEOs on the defensive and made them fight tooth and nail to protect their corrupt industry. Now, in this political era, when we've suffered so many losses, we need to take the next step and bring the logic of divestment into the political arena. As young people, we need to contest for power. And we need to get involved in the political system where fossil fuel executives are currently calling all of the shots. Well, Sunrise has a 4-year plan to break the hold of fossil fuel executives on our democracy and elect leaders to office who actually care about the health and well-being of all people, not just the 1%. In 2018, young people are drawing a line. We are making it the year when no politician can seriously claim to care about our generation's future and still take money from the fossil fuel executives, lobbyists, and front groups who jeopardize our lives. You see, fossil fuel billionaires really stand to lose billions of dollars if we leave oil and gas in the ground. So they've been buying off politicians for decades of both parties to bail out their dying industry and stop the just transition that we need. You could say that some of our leaders in Washington and around the country have a really bad Coke problem. Now, not that kind of Coke problem. That kind of Coke problem. But in 2016, Charles and David Koch spent $750 million on the elections to sway them in their favor. That's almost as much as the Democratic Party and the Republican Party spent each. $750 million to sway them in their favor. Politicians who are bought out by those guys cannot be counted on to do what's right and get us fossil-free fast. So this year, young people around the country will shine a light on the corrupting influence of people like the Kochs. We'll challenge hundreds of candidates to choose whether they're siding with big oil or with the American people. And they can prove that they're with us by signing onto the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge, which states that politicians will not take contributions from the oil, gas, and coal industry and prioritize the health and well-being of our families, climate, and democracy. Almost 200 candidates have signed to date. And if candidates sign, they will be in good company. Because just backstage, Bernie Sanders, remember him? Bernie Sanders renewed his pledge to reject contributions from these bad actors, and he's calling on politicians and candidates from every corner of this country to join him. So to launch this work on the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge and grow our numbers, Sunrise is speaking to over 12,000 young people just this spring. When June comes around, we're putting a volunteer army of hundreds of young people on the ground, full-time, until the midterm elections in November to help elect the candidates who'll stand up for my generation. So if you are a young person in the crowd and you want to join the growing army of young people, text Sunrise to 4243 New Day. If you struggle with the letters, it's 424-363-9329. We call ourselves Sunrise because we know that this dark time in America must come to an end. the sun will rise again, and with it will usher in a better world, one where the color of our skin and how much money we have in our pockets don't determine our worth and our value. It is an honor to walk together with all of you towards the dawn and a fossil-free world. Thank you.
That was fantastic, just fantastic. Yeah, so good. Now, Varshini said it better than I could ever say it. This isn't about changing light bulbs at this point. It's about changing politics. Together, we're going to show that everywhere across this country, there is a movement demanding a fast and a just transition. When you pass a fossil-free resolution locally, you're helping create this upswell toward that vision at the national level. Doesn't matter that it's at your city council, it comes up to the top. You're building a movement that can ensure that as the pendulum naturally begins to swing back, it swings far back. That's right. Okay? Because we do not any longer want politicians who believe in climate change. That's right. That is too low a bar to do us a bit of good. Okay? We want leaders who will do something about it. That's right. We want leaders ready to pass bold plans like a Green New Deal that would create millions of fair, good-paying jobs. It all starts at the local level, and it starts with you here in this room and all of you out across the country, because you are the organizers who either will make it happen or not.
That's right, and we need you. I mean, we really, really need you. Every single one of us has a role to play. If you're just jumping on to this at home or wherever you are, you can text fossil-free to 83224 to learn more, because we really, really need you. Now, there's one thing left to do, and it's a thing that you and me, Bill, have talked about for a very, very long time.
Right. Look, a movement, to be a movement, needs to be about more than statistics.
That's right.
Environmentalists done a good job of appealing to whatever lobe of the brain it is that likes bar graphs and pie charts. Not so good with the rest. Okay? So we need to be about culture. That's because right. Our goal is nothing less than changing the zeitgeist. If we change the zeitgeist, if we reach into people's hearts as well as their heads, then the legislation and the laws and the regulations will follow.
Which means, among other things, art and music. Let me tell you something.
Art and music.
Yes, yes. Art and music. Make some noise for that.
And I should just interrupt.
Yeah.
I should just interrupt long enough to thank the arts crew at 350 for these banners and signs and
let me tell you something, Bill. The best part of my day is when the sun comes up in the morning, when we get another day to do the work of making the planet a better place.
That's right. That's right. And the sun is more or less our symbol tonight, really. Now, I spent part of last year in Ghana, Ivory Coast, Tanzania, some of the countries that Trump was disrespecting this month. They are great places, and they are full of great activists. It was so good to see my colleague and brother Landry up there talking to us from Africa a little while ago. They're coming alive with the sun. But Africa did not cause this crisis, and Africa can't solve this crisis. Look, if you're watching this at home or with neighbors, you are the engine of our grassroots movement. Tonight, you might already be actively fighting an oil export terminal or lobbying for strong climate legislation. In that case, you'll end these watch parties in a couple of minutes by talking about how to bring your campaign to the next level. That's right. Or maybe your group is brand new to this. Maybe you don't even know the other people in the room, the church basement, wherever you're gathered, well, you'll have time in a minute when we're done to talk about how you're going to kick off some fresh campaign, what fossil-free looks like where you live.
That's right.
We know, because we have watched it so many places and with so many people, we know that you can do this. And so we're going to leave you with one last gift.
So I think we need some music now.
Yeah. What do you say? Some music about the sun.
I'm with that. I like music about the sun.
So I've been researching music about the sun.
I'm a little scared now,
okay.
but continue.
And I've discovered that there are lots of songs to choose from. I've been going through them since I'm a little older. I tried hard to pick one for the young people in the crowd.
Okay, I'm excited. Okay.
Just listen.
No. That's too young.
Too young?
That's too young, Bill.
Then this one's a little bit older then.
You are my sunshine.
No.
Sunshine.
I mean, I like it, but that's a little too old.
When skies are
Look who's here.
I think I can help.
Oh!
It's Antonique Smith, the Grammy-nominated chanteuse.
I thought you, Antonique, were off like filming on Netflix or in Hollywood.
I was, but I had to be here with you guys. I could not miss this moment.
Come on now.
And I know what we should sing.
Okay.
Joined by the Howard Gospel Choir. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. I say it's all right. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. But here comes the It seems like years since it's been clear.
But here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun, and I say, it's all right. Sun, 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 here it comes. Sun, sun, sun. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Where's Bill? Where's Rev? Bill, Rev, thank y'all so much. Thank you. We're gonna win this war.
Hey guys, so to follow up on what everyone said, I know everyone's, it's been a long night. I'm full of inspiration, I don't know about you. It's definitely gave me the inspiration to keep on continuing the local fight here in DC, more so DMV area. And my name is Jair Carrasco. This is my greeting, my peoples, I tell you, Kamisaraki, Hilata, Kuyaka. And that means greetings, brothers and sisters. In Aymara, and that language originates from the Andes, my indigenous peoples, specifically Bolivia. And thank you. And one quick thing, I know I just want to acknowledge the land once again as Piscataway land, and I want to acknowledge all the animals and all the creatures, all the two-legged and four-legged in this environment, and I want to acknowledge the ancestors who once inhabited this environment, because it's important to remember that they were here before these buildings occupied this land. But another thing that I'm here to talk to you about is the Potomac Pipeline. How many of you have heard of the Potomac Pipeline before? Cool. Awesome. So 350 DC is working on a campaign to stop the Potomac Pipeline. Can I get a few hands up for that? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm here today to tell you in regards to the status of that pipeline. So right now it's not being constructed, but 350 DC has managed to gather a resolution, a unanimous decision, and a unanimous resolution that was passed by the DC City Council opposing the pipeline. So I want to thank our council members for that. And it's also important to mention that this Potomac Pipeline is funded by TransCanada, the same folks who are funding the Keystone XL. That's right. So another thing to mention is that if that pipeline gets laid down below the Potomac River, which is said to be around the West Virginia, Northern Maryland area, if that pipeline if something happens to that pipeline and it spills, whose water gets contaminated? Ours. That's over 500,000 people living in DC whose drinking water gets contaminated. So it's very important to speak up. It's very important to get plugged in with 350 DC in that campaign. And I'm here to tell you, if you feel like maybe you're helpless and you have no skills to offer, I'm here to tell you otherwise. If you're an artist, we need more artists to work on banners. If you're good at database management, come help us work on database management. If you're just a loud person in general, come help us lead some chants. You know, you all have some power to you. You all have a gift, and I truly believe that. And I feel like we can form this strong community. If you look to your left and your right, this is your community. You all believe in one thing, and that's protecting Mother Earth, protecting her medicine. So can I get a round of applause for Mother Earth, please? You know, and one of the things when we fight and when we resist and we focus on destroying corporate greed, we also have to remember that we have to put something in its place. And while at the same time, while we're destroying this corporate fossil fuel industry, that we're building a community. From what I've seen in my involvement with the local indigenous community here, it's being plugged into other communities, such as the natives in Alaska, the Maori in New Zealand, Hawaii, all the way to the Mayans in Guatemala. We've all built a strong community, and we depend on each other for strength. And if you look here today in this room, we can all have that community. We can all depend on each other for that strength and fight against this Potomac pipeline. Can I get a Mini Wachoni? Mini Wachoni. Thank you. I'm going to pass it on to John over here. He's going to talk to you more about different local resistances. Thank you.
Thank you so much, y'all. I know you're leaving. Senator Sanders and nearly every speaker here said tonight that the best way to fight the fossil fuel executives and everything that they talked about today is to get involved locally. So please, when you leave today, head to the back there and sign up to get involved with 350 DC to fight the Potomac pipeline and fight for climate justice in the DMV. Thank you so much.